It's an honor for me to open the second day of conference, Why Still Education, Experience of Education, and to introduce you to our key speaker, Professor Carla Rinaldi. I hope we can hear each other well. Everything is okay, I think. And before I hand the word to Professor Rinaldi, I will briefly read her impressive biography. Carla Rinaldi is president of Foundation Reggio Children and professor at the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia. She started working in Reggio Emilia in 1970, first as a pedagogista, I hope I pronounce it well, then as pedagogical director of Municipal Early Childhood Services. In 1994, she became a consultant of Reggio Children, and then she was president of the company from 2007 to 2016. In 2011, she was appointed president of Foundation Reggio Children, Center Loris Malaguzzi. Since 1999, she has been a professor of the course The Approach of Reggio Emilia Municipal Preschools at the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia. In 2015, she was awarded the 2015 LEGO Prize, and since 2019, she has been the coordinator of the PhD Reggio Children Studies. And international industrial PhD promoted by the Department of Education and Human Sciences of the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia and Foundation Reggio Children Centro Loris Malaguzzi. Her book, In Dialogue with Reggio Emilia, is translated and well known all over the world. I hope I pronounced it all well. So, Professor Rinaldi, the floor is all yours, and we are very pleased that you are with us.
Hello. Good morning. Buongiorno. Good morning, everybody there. Good morning, dear colleagues, students. First of all, I would like to thank the University of Belgrade and the Institute for Philosophy and Social Theory for inviting me to this prominent conference. Why still education? Why still education is a cardinal question for all of us. And furthermore, cardinal is the question about the consistency of education, the experience of education. As a pedagogist, coming from the educational experience of Reggio Emilia, I would say that our, in Reggio, is an epistemological research and theory that is very deeply rooted in reality, and so is in a permanent transition and transformation. A research, I said, whose value has been recognized at the academic level by the Department of Education and Human Sciences of the University of Modena Reggio Emilia in Italy, not only with the course that I teach, but also, as my colleague there said, with the doctorate Reggio Childhood Studies. And, I must say, by the Harvard School of Education, and by many essays written by professors like Jerome Brunner, a very dear friend of Reggio, Professor Howard Gardner, and many others like James Heckman and Nobel Prize and others. And is particularly as a president of Fondazione Reggio Children that I say that the answer to the question, the title of your beautiful conference is Education. Education is the answer. Quality education is the answer. Not only pedagogical response, but a social and political one, a response to the educational emergencies in our time, for example, like climate crisis, but especially humanity crisis. Education, quality education is the answer. For this reason, I would like to develop my reflection on some themes that are particularly close to my heart, starting from, first of all, childhood as DNA of humanity. Second, the pedagogy of relationship and listening through documentation, to which a good part of my speech will be dedicated, with the help also of some images that I would like to show you. I will use also, so not only verbal language, but also images, language, the language of images. Crossing in the end some notes on the contemporary challenge. So let's start from a key question for our experience in Reggio, but especially for all of us. Who is the child? Which kind of images each of us has of the child? Or again, for perhaps a better, which kind of image of the human being do we have? We cannot ignore this question. There are, regarding the child, there are a lot of stereotypes. In our opinion, and especially in my opinion, child is in reality the father of human being. But among the many possible answers, the educational experience of Reggio Emilia promotes and supports the idea that from the moment of birth, children are strong, powerful, and rich in potential and resources. All the children all over the world, wherever they are born, wherever they live. From the moment of birth, a child is a bearer of social, political, legal, and rights. He, she is a citizen from the moment of birth. Citizen of the present, not only of the future. A public subject. A person engaged in developing a relationship with the world. Capable, because of this, of his own research of the meaning of life. I repeat, from the moment of birth. Not only, secondly, a child has to be recognized as a competent person. I repeat, competent. Competent because he is able to develop a relationship and interaction with peers, adults, ideas, objects, nature, environment, with the real and imaginary events. Be competent because he's competent in learning. Because if the child does not learn, does not live. Is competent in asking questions and seeking answers, and generated a culture of their own. And I repeat, when I talk of the child, I talk about not only of a child, but of human being. We are born competent. in learning. The child, Loris Malaguzzi, our mentor, a great philosopher of Reggio Emilia, the child is made by 100. He says in a beautiful poem, The 100 Languages of Children. So the 100 languages of children are 100 languages of human beings and are ways to communicate and to learn. Because when you communicate something, you are also learning something. And the child, I repeat, is really the essence of human being, the best of human being, the DNA with immense potential of the human being. The why of the child, when the child starts to ask why, is the ability also to reach for an answer and to start a real research. And in this biological attitude of the child, we have the future of our humanity. In the looking at the future, if we are not able to develop this attitude of the human being to be a researcher, that means to be able to approach life with the attitude of a researcher, maybe we cannot have a future because what we know nowadays will not be enough. So instead to be scared of the intelligence artificial, we have to try to understand much more about the nature, the possibility, the potentiality of our own intelligence since the moment of birth. The human being and the child are, in our opinion in Reggio and in mine here today, are the researcher for excellence. They construct their own theory and their own explanation. This is the key that we have to value, to trust. We have to trust the children as thinkers and researchers. I use the word trust, to trust, because they are able to develop an epistemology of research. That means that our future as adults and teacher will change completely, not to proceed top down, but to start to work and to dialogue with the children in the school and outside with an attitude bottom up. This I can say, I must say, I like to say, is the big revolution. But if you accept this idea that the children, as the best essence of human being, are able to construct their own theory that can be wrong, can be misunderstanding, can be, but they are a key attitude of human being. You can now come with me to try to understand what is the key of what is defined in the word the Reggio approach. Listening. Listening not only as a verb, but as a pedagogy. In fact, starting from this clear image of the child, let's look how we can start, not to teach to the child, but to start a real dialogue between its own theory and our theories. To start a dialogue, a deep dialogue that can change both of us, the learner and the teacher that becomes a learner. I am talking at this moment about an element that is not only characteristic traits of the pedagogical experience of Reggio Emilia, but also is one of the structuring elements of human communication and education. As listening, again, as a process of reciprocity, of reciprocal otherness. I can speak because you are hearing me. And this concept of reciprocity and interdependency is the foundation of a true democracy. Again, listening in the school, but also in our life, both for the adults and the children, means, first of all, to have a question and being able to develop an interpretative theory. When a child says, it's rain because God or someone is crying in the sky, I know that is wrong. But what we have to save, enjoy, is his attitude to have a question and to try to make his own interpretation, his own answer. This is an extraordinary element that is a characteristic uniqueness of human being. We are the only one, seems, that can have questions. So the children can have their own interpretative theory, a temporary theory that can be continuously be elaborated. Because for the children to possess a theory is not to have power, it's just to participate to the research of the meaning of life that everybody is asked to develop. So they can be in dialogue with formal and informal theory, but they can play with their own theory. Play because means that is a joyful discovering the fact that they have theory and the children and the friends can have different theories. In fact, the theory of narration need to be listened. To be listened of need the listening of the other, need to be communicated, to be listened to in order to exist. If my theory exists, I exist, and you make me visible. The anonymity is the biggest frustration that children and human beings can have. To be ignored can be the source of real suffering. It is here that we recognize the values and fundamental principle of what we define the pedagogy of listening. Our society has nowadays a great need of listening. The philosopher Byung-Chun Han says, we are losing the ability to listen. There is almost no one who knows how to listen to the other. Because listening is not to hear, it's much more. It's to open our mind and our heart to the presence, to the theory of the other, of the otherness. Means to be aware of our limits. Means to accept the differences. Means to be part of a world of dialogue. Means maybe that you can find in this way the roots of peace. We lost the possibility to listen to each other. But be careful, to listen is not to hear. It's much more complex. We listen and the children can teach us with all our senses, with eyes, with ears, with the skin, with the 100,000 languages that life can take. To listen means to be open, to give a shape to curiosity, desire, a doubt, an interest. Listening means also to welcome emotions, all kinds of emotions. And listening is love. Is an act of love. Because you are welcoming the otherness, the differences in your being. Listening is outside the chronological time. Offer us a time full of silence, pauses, and interior time. Listening is our capacity not only to produce answers, but to form questions. Listening can generate a doubt, that is generated by dialogue and uncertainty, and especially where each truth can be considered only if it contains the awareness of its limits. Truth is something that has to be able to, as Popper, the philosopher, as scientist says, to contain his own falsification. Each theory, the most simple and the most complex, is not true forever. Is only part of a process of this permanent research of the meaning of life, and also the disciplines, but also the cultural and political theories are not forever. They are part of our permanent research to give an answer to the question that connect us with the children. That is, which is the meaning of life. Why I'm here, why we are here, why life has this shape. This kind of listening can really create a certain kind of interior revolution, but takes also the other out of anonymity, legitimate them, give them visibility, enrich. both the listener and those that produce the message. I want to give you an example, very evident. My message does not exist without you. You are the producer of the message. It's a beautiful paradox, but try to reflect. My message exists only if you can listen it. I know it's a big provocation, but it allowed us to understand again the concept of reciprocity and the interdependency that characterize our concept of listening. That means that also this capacity of reciprocal listening is a quality of the human mind and intelligence that is very clearly present in young children that are, in a real, not only metaphorical way, the greatest listener to the reality that surround them. The children, if I can say, have they know how to listen. When they start to have the milk from the breast of the mother, this is the first deep act of listening and reciprocity. It's a clear magic moment where the dialogue between the mother and the child become unique, intense, and they listen each other. If you look at the way in which they find their own rhythm that is different in each moment, not only every day, but in each relationship between mother and child, you can see the best example of the pedagogy of listening. Is a vibration, is an act of love. They perceive that the act of listening is really an act of knowing. The children perceive the act of listening, that is what we have learned from our and with our children, is observing, but also touching, smelling, tasting, seeking, and as a fundamental act of communication. Our task as educators and teachers is to support them, to support this attitude to listen, to research, to research, to research. That does not mean to offer them possible answer, but to offer them the possibility to develop their own research. So what they need, what we need is to support our children in their own research in a school that should be first of all and furthermost a context of multiple listening, a context of multiple listening, not only school, but also our offices, our families where we are. We are losing our teenager in the world. Many says losing in the meaning that they are creating their own world and the dialogue is more and more hard with them. Many says that it depends also by the loss of the real listening that the life and the reality can offer them. So the context of multiple listening, where each individual feels legitimated and in representing his own, her theories and narrating his own interpretation. A context of listening. that is a context where we overturn the traditional teaching, learning, and relationship, giving central place to the self-learning of the individual children, as well as the learning of the group and the learning in a group. We've been developing many researches on this topic, especially with the Harvard School of Education. There is a book, Making Learning Visible, where you can find all the traces of these common researches that have been developed together here in Reggio Emilia. And this is also why the best way at the pedagogical level, but not only that we have to develop this pedagogy of listening is documentation. Documentation is in Reggio visible listening. Documentation, be careful, not taking picture here and there, is not an archived document, not only a collection that of slides and picture or videos that can have to be examined at the end, but is really a visual, material, digital, cognitive research on the traces of the learning processes of the children. Be careful. We are not taking pictures of what the children does, but how the child does. The traces of his, her own learning, not what, but how. Not only what, but especially how. Documentation can be, as I said before, visual, material, digital, cognitive, supported by all these kind of tools, but the learning processes of the children have to be the focus. Documentation is a procedure that supports learning and teaching and makes them reciprocal. So try to synthesize this first part. The teacher learns by the learning of the children, observing them to learn, and changing his own way of teaching based on the learning processes of the children. The traces of the children are offering us. I think that to try to explain better what deeply means, my words cannot be enough. But I think documentation, some example of documentation can help us. Yes, I would like to share some slides to try to make you clearer this concept of documentation in process, documentation as a research of the traces of the learning processes of the child. Can you see the slide?
Yes, we can see it.
Thanks. Now, this slide can be for us a tool to summarize the idea that the listening can be a key verb for life. Spring, oh, look at these trees that were able to capture and to listen the wind, and they have changed their own shape. Or spring, can you listen? The sun and the noise of the little flower coming out. They are listening each other. As I said before, trying to
Sorry,
summarize.
can you hear me? Sorry. We see just the first slide, the title of the presentation. Maybe to share again, maybe is that is solution. I don't know. And maybe you can try the option share full screen, not just the presentation. Oh, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay. This is, okay. Can we start again?
Yes, I suppose.
The pedagogy of listening, we can, oh, we were underlining here how the nature is the best example that can help you to understand the concept of listening that we are trying to share with you this morning. Look at these trees that, as I said before, they were shaped by the wind. Amazing. But also look at this flower. Springtime, they have been vibrant thanks to the sun. They were in dialogue with the sun and they have changed shape thanks to the sun. But possibly the sun got also the vibration of the flowers. Now let's look at this. This the pedagogy of listening is here very well summarized. Not a passive verb, but an active verb, a verb that recognizes values to what is in front of me, to listen as a reciprocal and so and so. And the idea of school that support a pedagogy of relationship, communication, and listening. A pedagogy of listening is a transformative pedagogy. And now we can change the first example. Laura is a 10-month-old child. 10 months old means a child that in general is not defined as a learner, not a researcher. For sure is a child that is listed for what he does not know, he does not, he is not able to do, and not in general, never is look for what she or is able to do. Let me introduce Laura. As I said, 10 months old girl. With her, there is her teacher, Elucia. There is another teacher in the room, so there are many other children. We are in a classroom in an infant toddler center in Reggio Emilia many years ago. And we were looking for this concept of a competent child. How can I say that a 10 months old child is competent? So Laura taught us a lot. Look at her now. She is deeply concentrated on this newspaper. The newspaper was not elegant, was wrong. But anyway, it was in the room. And obviously, Laura found it and asked to the teacher to read the, the, the newspaper. To read is, I'm not making a mistake, because you can read not only word, but you can read the word. So the children start to read since the moment the eyes are able to be opened and to look at the world, maybe before also. So the child is in this case deeply, Laura is deeply concentrated in reading. And look also her hand. She's fantastic because she's competent, 8 months old. Look at her face, look at her position, look at the position of the teacher. Now, Luisa, we can move to the other slide. Oh, can you see? Apparently it's like the other, but look carefully. A lot has changed. Laura position. Luisa, can you go back? No, back. This one. Now, she has changed. That means that 8 months old, she's able to use the language of the body because she went close to the teacher and the teacher moves in her direction. So they start a dialogue. But please, now be careful in looking what you have on your right hand. Uh, there are some problem because here we listen some noises. Vabbè.
I'm really sorry to interrupt, but here we hear some echo. So if you could please switch off your microphone during the presentation.
Okay.
I think our mics are off. Can someone, I will try to, I know, it's off. We will try
Okay.
to maybe our mic on Zoom.
Okay. So we can continue with our friend Laura. Now I invite you to observe her body position, the position of the teacher, but also please look carefully to her hand, what you have on your right. No. Dammelo a me. Sorry, look at her hand, what you have on your right. If you look carefully, there is something ready, something special ready. The finger, the famous child finger. There is a long period where the children don't speak, but parents and grandparents, they know exactly what the children want, because in that period the children are able really to use many of the 100 languages. The body language, they are able to indicate, they are able, look at the eyes of Laura. If you look carefully, this picture was taken many years ago, but if you look carefully, she is asking a question. And you know the question. What is it? And in this simple example, you can have the clear, in my opinion, explanation of the relationship between teaching and learning. The question comes from the child. Now the decision is that one of the teacher. You can be a teacher in infant adolescent preschool, compulsory school, university. The important is to know the question of the student and to be able to help them to research the answer. So Elucia, the teacher, in this moment, she has to choose. Or she give the answer, or she support the research of Laura. This is the key. And Elucia made the choice in terms of top-down or bottom-up question. At that time, remember, there were no electronic watch. There was the classical tick-tock watch. Why I say this? Because Elucia, the teacher, made his own choice and shared her clock. And she made what Jerome Brunner said and invited us to do more and more, expansion of the question. If a child asks you, what is that? And he looks at the branch of the tree, you have to show the sky. And if you look at the sky, you have to show the universe. So to enlarge the question, not to give an answer, but to expand the question. And this is true also for our PhD students that are here in the room with me, sharing this very important moment also for us. And now look at the face of Laura. And look at her face now. Here, as I like to say, and I have to repeat today, you have the manifesto of the pedagogy of listening. The sound open up new idea in the mind of Laura. She's now thinking. Probably she's developing her own theory or her own interpretation. What is sure that is try to give an answer to the phenomenon that is happening. And if you're ready, we can see what is going to happen now. I've been, let's go back. No, this is my mistake. You remember she was here, then she moved at this position. I have been discussing with Professor Gardner quite often, no, once, but was enough, this slide. Because his first position was that she made a misunderstanding. She didn't understand. So underlining again what Laura was not able to do. So she didn't know the watch. And so she made a mistake. In reality, Laura here, and then at the end we agreed, is really showing us the unique capacity that we have been able to describe, to make his own interpretation, to find his own answer, even if it's wrong. What we have to save is this attitude of human mind since we are children. So Laura is a friend of ours in Reggio. She came with us all over the world when we wanted to share, in a very short example, the magic moment that we have been living when we met her the first time, and when she offered us this moment of understanding of what can mean documentation, which is the role of documentation, and especially which is the role of the teacher. Now I want to share with you some other slides, but before I want to share the motion that we got many years after. She is Laura, more than 20 years after, 20 years after, with her mother and her son. And they were watching this example in the school where she was with her teachers and in the infant toddler center. The child went to the same infant toddler center. This can happen in Reggio. Now, if we have time, we let us know. We can continue to share another example. Maybe yes.
Time. You can share what you prepared.
Thank you very much. Thanks. The title is Ring Around the Rosie. And now we move to what we define a preschool, and we in Reggio define scuole comunali dell'infanzia di Reggio Emilia. And now, no. Now we have to figure out to come with me in preschool, Scuola dell'Infanzia di Ana in Reggio Emilia, in a school with a beautiful garden surrounding the building. And we are now guest of a classroom of children 5 years old. We are at the end, in the end of May, early June. And the teacher invited the 5 years old of that school, that is a school with 3 classes of children, 3, 4, and 5 years, the class of the 3 years, the class of the 4 years, and the class of the 5 years. The 5 years are the children that are leaving the school at the end of June. So they were invited to prepare some recipes, some secret, some information for the 3 years old new coming in September. This class decided that among the many things that they wanted to share with the new young children that they will never meet in September, but that will be part of their own school, they were ready to organize something very special for them, Ring Around the Roses. And so they start to play to ring around the roses in large group, small group, and so and so. They played a lot. So they played with the body, with the eyes, with all their senses, and together. But at the end, the teacher said, now you have to invite, to try to draw the ring around the rosy. If you want to explain, you have first of all to tell them the rules and then to design how to do. And the 5 years old were enthusiastic. Particularly a group of them were invited to be the representative group that had to start to do this. They were 3 children. Giovanni, the first. Giovanni is about 5 years old. And the teacher, before to invite him to design, to draw the ring around the rose, invited him to describe with the words. So the verbal language first. Drawing a ring around the rosy is easy because you draw some kids with their faces in front and then not all of them with their faces, but also with their backs. So the idea seems to be very clear. The previous experience has been very important, and Giovanni says is easy. Then Giovanni did. And if you can observe, his draw is completely wrong. He was not able to do what he said because they were all with the faces in front. He was not able to represent the back. We are here in a magic moment for a teacher again, because oh, what is for the teacher? Because the gap is evident. What to do? To go to close to Giovanni and teach him what to do, or let's see what happened. Then close to Giovanni there was Leonardo, a very good friend of Giovanni. And also Leonardo, that was the interview alone, said exactly what Giovanni said. I think it's easy to draw ring around a rose. This is the gap between the verbal and the written, or better, draw concept. When you have a concept in your mind, if you use only a language, the concept can be limited. If you can use different languages, the concept can be developed. That is the theory of the 100 languages. More opportunity, that means languages you offer to the children, more the concept and the knowledge is rooted. Look, and Leonardo say, easy, easy, look what a great ring around the rosy I can do. There is an arm here and a little longer, but otherwise it would reach it. And this is in reality what he did. And also the intelligence of the child that made a sort of link between the two arms to make it more correct. Giulia is a girl, maybe the Y because the Y, this slide are wrong. Giulia made a drawing and she was able to say immediately, I got wrong. I made a line, not a cycle of children. It's hard. So this is a Giulia drawing, and this is her comment. The three children were three examples of the probably the difficulties that the children of this age, and not only, fermi per favore, not only can have the difficulty between the bidimensional and the three-dimensional language and expression is evident in the three children. And now the teacher can think that could be an issue for all the children, can be a step, a stage of their development. So now they have not to make a program, but to develop a progettazione, a project that means that they have to make hypotheses, many hypotheses, to offer many possibilities, but to dance with the children, with their own development, with the need, with they can do, and not with the teacher want to do. This is another very important and delicate, to respect the process, the time of the child. So the first things that the children were invited to discuss and to comment together their own drawing, but also they invited another child that became a sort of neutral interpreter of the situation. And the three children were considered, and they start to discuss what to do. What is beautiful here, that is not the teacher telling them what to do, but they discussing. And the teacher and they discussed, since they found an idea that is fantastic. We should, they started with the body, if you remember, making ring around the roses. Now they go with the body, they went back to the body. And Julia said, I want 6 kids because I drew 6. Now let's put that us as we were in the drawing. They only, your hands are holding each other, they are only touching. And they start to laugh and to understand which was the mistake. The same did Giovanni. You can figure out a lot of laughing, but also the difficult to understand what to do. But they understood the nature of the mistake. Now, the assembly. The friends of the class were invited to express what was what they thought could have been useful. And they start to make some hypotheses and to combine the verbal language with the drawing. I have to draw some kids who are standing like I am right now. I made this girl with her back turned. But what about others? We are participating to the beautiful drama of learning. To learn is not easy, is a fatigue. But the only way is really to develop, to do this big effort that we are invited to do and to support the children and the others in this step. This is why the pedagogy of listening is also moral and ethical. Prego. And we can see all the process. Giovanni has made another important, another very important step, the profile. When a child encounters the profile, is a mental step unique. Julia made a back. Now they are learning in a group and as a group. In a group and as a group. Giovanni made again his own mistake, the other are supporting him. Look at Julia. Julia made, thanks to the important step of Giovanni, she conquered the profile. But if you see, there is another a very important step, the front. The back is conquered, the profile is conquered, but where to put the front, the children that are in front. Giovanni, and Giovanni was the supporter of Julia. Also Julia conquered the position. That means also Leonardo at the end, but now we have to stop. What is important is if it's evident that learning is a community process. We can learn thanks to the other and with the others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rinaldi, once again for this inspiring speech. We learned together with you. So we can open discussion if you agree. And if someone has a question or some comment, can you share with us?
Mi aiutate perché non sempre sento bene.
Mosh.
Okay, so I'll be the first one. First of all, I wanted to thank you for taking time to actually talk to us and to engage to this conference. It's quite important, especially for us who work and who research in early childhood education, because early childhood is often not very well represented on conferences as such. Now, I wanted to ask you for a comment or for a bit of your experience on this role of the teacher, because pedagogy of listening demands quite a different position of the teacher, and not just some different theoretical knowledges or skills, but very different sensibility and different engagement with the process, with different ways of expression. And it's, from our experience, is something that's very often difficult for adults. So what might be some difficulties with which you faced while working with preschool teachers in developing this sensibility, and how do you actually work on that?
No. We cannot hear very well. Just a second, because with my colleague here, I'm...
Do you want me to say something again, or?
Second.
Okay.
Già fatto. Fai tu. No, what I really, we are, because the hearing is not so good, but don't be worried. If I well understood, you want to know how we support our teachers in terms of, okay, maybe remember always that are almost more than 60 years that this approach has been developed in this town and community. We started obviously with one school, then many other have been built, but also there is the possibility for teacher to work with us for years, not just temporary small slot, but for years. So it's not only what we have made for our teacher, we have done for our teacher, but also what our teachers have done for us. What I mean, that's through documentation, and also before, when we couldn't have, in the early 70s, we couldn't have camera or things like this. A block note was to write. The invitation of Professor Malaguzzi was write what surprised you. In a small booklet that you can have in your vest, and try please to share with your colleague your surprise. Why you are surprised? What did you see and why? And to ask their own comment and what they really think can be good to do with that child. Remember early 70, no camera in the school. And also remember that our are not rich school. Our school, where thanks to the community of parents and local, is possible to have some tools. But still now, we have the possibility to use, not in our school in Reggio, but in the many schools that we have around the world inspired by us. We have colleagues now in South Africa. There cannot be documentation with slides or videos. Just a pen, a pencil, and a piece of paper can, if you have this vision that you are not the owner of the knowledge, if you have the humility to understand the support of the other not only are indispensable, but can show better your intelligence. Because what we need is a collective intelligence, not a private and egocentric intelligence. We are against any individualistic approach that but also against the anonymity of the teacher. So if the children are visible, also the teacher became visible. But the teacher among the other teachers, competition is the enemy. Cooperation is the word. In a society of competition, cooperation, we are losing the meaning. But the school is the only place where you can recreate the meaning of cooperation. That is also the key, the theoretical key of the Reggio approach, because it's also a cultural and political key. This is why the approach has been so well understood in the community of the school, but also of the city, because we represent the city, and the city feels represented by us, and take inspiration by our teachers and especially by our children, when we are able to use the right languages and they are able to listen. This is a society where everybody has lost the capacity of listening. But the school, again, can be the source of a new listening, a new definition of human being. And the only teacher can be the child. It's a beautiful paradox. But or we challenge ourselves, trusting the child, or really the regeneration of humanity can finish.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there more questions? Comments? Okay, yeah, here we go. Working. Maybe we did that, Mike. Yes.
Is it working? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm very impressed from your presentation and from your, I would say, ethos of educating, and especially an ethos of being responsible and of responsivity to the child. In my perspective, I think it's a child-centered approach you presented us. But in the, I will come back to our topic, why still education? And you talked about a lot about learning, and you mentioned learning in community. But I was wondering, what about education and educational practices? You mentioned dialogue, you mentioned listening. I saw a slide where you were showing something to a child, a book with these clocks. So I am wondering, what about the educational practices? What do the educator with the child? So this might be, could you please explain it? Thank you.
Sorry, are you asking about educational practice?
Yes.
Sorry, probably it was not clear enough. Thank you, first of all, of the question. And I was not clear because what I've been sharing is not a research in a laboratory, but are teachers that have been taking picture of the children while they are working. I don't know if they are the picture made by our teachers, and the teacher, we have made a selection of the thousand of slides at that time that they have made, not for the parents that anyway share this, not for the university professor, but for themselves, because they meet once or twice a week, they look at the pictures, they look at the notes, they look at what is going on, and they discuss weekly 3 or 4 years on these topics. I don't know if it was clear. What I've been sharing is not something that I've made. I'm not able to do things like this. Only a good teacher can do. I don't know if I answer or you are convinced. It's quite hard, I understand, but the only way is to come here. And but not only because, as I said, starting from Professor Jerome Gruner, he likes to come here every year for a month. And he used to come in June, and he used to spend the morning in the school with the children and with the teacher. And in the afternoon, he loved to be with the teacher in this kind of discussion. And he said it was the month of his learning. I know, you know, Professor Brunner, the biggest psychologist, in my opinion, of the last century, but also Professor Gardner. And you can look at the book, Making Learning Visible, that we have published, that collected the researches made by our teachers and interpreted by the teacher, the Harvard researcher, and our team of pedagogists.
Thank you, Professor. Is there any other question?
Hello. Thank you, Professor, for your presentation. Yeah, that's good. Okay. I want to pick up on the previous question actually, because my impression is that the pedagogy of listening is quite like student center, quite children center, and then based on what you say, the teacher like are treated as a learner. So I think it's quite similar to how teachers are viewed in the lifelong learning trend nowadays. So can you give me and other audience here maybe a concise differentiation between the pedagogy of listening and the idea of lifelong learning? So what are the differences there?
No different. Sorry. Thanks again for the beautiful question that you are sharing. And I want to underline, in my opinion, but only mine, is not child-centered pedagogy. It's a pedagogy focused on the quality of relationship. Any kind of relationship that I define interdependent, and we have to try to make them more and more evidently reciprocal and interdependent. But the main focus is not only on the child, but the child in relationship with the teachers and the other children. So is the relationship, qualified relationship, the main focus. This is a very thin difference in terms of we can be classified in those that are defined as child-centered pedagogy, but I repeat, more than only on the child, we are focused on the learning processes of a group of learners, and starting from each child, but also focus on the group. So on the process, so on the relationship as a permanent process, as I said, starting epistemology is our main focus. Then, in terms of the second part of the question, sorry? Ah, I think I would like to do this in also with is a long life learning process. This is the quality of our life. Also in nurse for elderly people, why not? So this is life, these are humans. It's not only for children in school. This is a philosophy for life, long life learning. Because we can survive only if we are permanent learners. I think that nowadays, your generation especially, will be challenged. Or you change mind in terms of you learn more and more, and you can choose. The difficulty of choosing and synthesizing is the difficulty that we have to face. But in the future and in the present. But these are the quality of mind that we need. That's why research become the meaning of our life and the key word of the future. I don't know if I have answered.
I think yes. We have time just for one short question. So please go on.
I think there is a distinction to be made here in your question, because lifelong learning has come to be associated with certain political ideas that is foreign to Reggio Emilia pedagogic. And I think the democratic ambition behind Reggio perhaps has to be pronounced further to understand the learning concept in Reggio.
To understand. Sorry, thanks my colleagues here. I understood your beautiful question better. There is obviously a connection with a lifelong learning, but not only for teachers. But what I like of your question is that for sure this pedagogy has influenced and influenced a concept of democracy. But I think that the relationship between pedagogy, education, and politics is through any pedagogical system is influenced and influence a political idea. I don't want to ask you to agree with me, but the experience of Reggio children and my own experience made this kind of interdependency very evident. The education and politics that are a topic of many discussions with my colleagues all over the world bring me also now to the concerted idea that education is a political act, and a real policy is also a way to educate the citizenship, to develop the concept of citizenship. And the future of citizenship is the future of long life learning. Citizens that have the right, the possibility, and the community that support their own learning since they are at the end of their life as citizen and as human being. I hope that was clear.
Yes, the colleague agrees. The colleague agrees. But we need, fortunately, to end up this session. And thank you very much, Professor Rinaldi, for this beautiful speech. So you need to come to Belgrade to start and to investigate with us about what is the Reggio Emilia and how we make learning visible. We saw that in your presentation. And once again, thank you a lot to be here with us.
Thank you very much for this. Thank you again for this opportunity, and let's hope to meet in the future. Ciao.
Ciao.